Hi, welcome to today's tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make the noggin. So the noggin is a hat kit. It's a very chunky yarn, and in the hat kit you get your ball of wool and your pom-pom and a free knitting pattern. So in today's tutorial I'm going to talk you through step by step how to make your noggin hat. So you will need a noggin kit. So you will need the noggin wool, and I sell this in my shop in Conway, and I also have them listed in my Etsy shop, so I shall leave a link to that in the description box below for you. And you also need a pair of 12mm circulars. So again, I sell these in my shop in Conway and also in the Etsy shop, so you can pop over there if you need a pair of 12mm needles. And I'm also going to be using a stitch marker, a darning needle and a pair of scissors. Let's get started. Okay, so today I'm using this lovely colourway with the green, plums, reds, creams. And this one comes with this really vibrant red pom-pom. So there's various colourways available in the noggins. And this one is called Yew Tree. And it's 75% acrylic and 25% wool, which means your hat, when it's finished, will be hand wash only. Okay, so before we start, there's just a couple of other things I want to point out. That is, from previous experience, the noggin takes more or less the whole 100-gram ball. So when you cast on, don't leave too long a tail, because you might find that you end up just a little bit short to finish your hat. So I have noticed that whilst doing them. So be mindful when you cast on not to leave too long a tail. And I just want to talk you through the pattern just before we start. So I'm just going to move these out of the way and bring in one of the hats, the noggin hats that I've finished, because I just want to talk you through the ribbing. So I'm going to talk you through this slowly, step by step. So hopefully, even if you're a beginner knitter, you'll still be able to follow along and make your noggin. So one of the things that I get asked about a lot in the shop is this twisted rib, and it puts people off making it, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to do this tutorial for you, to show you that it's not as scary as you might think. So this rib here is made up of knit one, purl one, as a normal rib would. The only difference is the purl, instead of purling as you normally would, you go through the back of the purl loop, which I shall show you. So don't worry, I shall show you really slowly and step by step what to do. But yeah, if you're a beginner knitter, please don't worry when I talk about twisted rib, or if you see twisted rib in your pattern, it's not as bad or as daunting as you might think. And apart from that, everything is quite straightforward. So it's just going to be knitting, because we're knitting in the round, and we have a few decreases, and then we're going to fasten off and attach our pom-pom. So that's kind of the basic construction of our noggin. So let's get ready to cast on now. Okay, so our pattern tells us to cast on 32 stitches. However, I'm going to be casting on 33 stitches, because when I'm working in the round, I like to join my round in a certain way. If you prefer to cast on the 32 stitches and you like to work in the round your own particular way, then go ahead and do that. But I'm going to cast on 33 stitches, and I shall show you how I get to my 32 stitches in a moment. So go ahead and either cast on your 32 stitches if you have your preferred method of working in the round. If you want to follow my way of starting the round, then cast on 33 stitches, and I shall show you what we're going to do with that extra stitch when we get there. So I'm going to cast on my 33 stitches. Okay, so once you've cast on your 33 stitches, you want to just lay your work down just to make sure that your stitches aren't twisted anywhere. So you want to make sure that your stitches are on the outside facing you all the way around. And once you're happy that they're lying that way and you haven't got any twists in your work, once they're laying all in the same direction, nice and flat, then what we're going to do is we're going to knit the very first stitch. So I'm just going to move my tail out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and knit this very first stitch now. And then what we're going to do to get back to our 32 stitches that we need for the pattern, we're going to cast off one stitch now. So we've knit the first stitch, so we're joined in the round, okay, with no twist, just double check no twist. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to lift this stitch here next to the one we've just knit over the top of that stitch just to cast that stitch off. And now we are joined nicely in the round. So it just creates a nice smooth finish to the work at the end as well. And now we're ready to make the hat. So you might find that you need to have your cable at this end. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so the pattern begins with 7 rounds of twisted rib. So our twisted rib consists of purl 1 through back loop followed by knit 1, and we're going to repeat that to the end. So as I say, I'm going to talk you through it slowly, so don't worry. Okay, so for our very first stitch, purl 1 through back loop. So because it's a purl stitch, we need to bring our yarn to the front, and then what we would normally do for our purl stitch is we'd be bringing our right hand needle through that first stitch in this direction through the front loop. So this is called the front loop, but we're going to be working through the back loop. So if I just turn it around slightly so you can see the back loop here, and we're going to be bringing our needle through that back loop in this direction. Oops. I'll show you that again. So we're going to take the right hand needle, and the right hand needle is going to go to the back of our work and through the back of that loop in that direction and through, and then we are just going to purl that stitch as we normally would. So just go ahead and purl. Now because that's our first stitch of the round, we need to mark our beginning of round. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop my marker into this stitch here. Normally, if I had a big enough marker, I would just slip it onto the needle here, but because my stitch markers won't go on the 12mm needles, I am just going to pop my marker in the very first stitch here. So if you've got a marker that's big enough, you could slip it on before you did that first stitch. However, if you've just got these little markers like me, then just go ahead and place it in that first stitch to mark the beginning of the round. And then we're going to go ahead now and knit the next stitch. And now we come back to the purl through back loop. So we're going to bring the working yarn forward, and again we're going to take the needle to the back loop and bring the needle through like so, and then we're just going to purl, and then we're going to knit, and then we're going to purl through back loop. So this is the pattern that we're going to be doing all the way around. So purl through back loop followed by a knit, followed by the purl through back loop. And we're going to continue working in this way all the way around. So if, like me, you've got your wire coming up soon, all you need to do is to go ahead and pull that wire out in another place so you can move your stitches onto your needle. And then we just continue as we were. So the next stitch is a knit stitch, and the next one purl through the back loop. So we're just going to continue working this way all the way around now until we reach our marker. Okay, so you can see now that I'm just coming up to the end of the round. So my last stitch is a knit stitch because the beginning of the round starts with a purl. So all I'm going to do is take my marker out and go ahead and purl the first stitch of the next round. And then remember to place my marker back in. So we've now completed round 1 and we've just started round 2. So the pattern asks us to do 7 rounds of our twisted rib. So you've now completed round 1 of the twisted rib. So go ahead now and complete a further 6 rounds of twisted rib and join me back here. Okay, so I've now finished my 7 rows of twisted rib, so I'm ready to move on to the next section. So the next part of the pattern asks us to do 11 rounds of stocking stitch. So with normal stocking stitch, you would knit 1 row, purl the next row. But because we're working in the round, it's slightly different. We knit every stitch of every round when we're working in the round for stocking stitch. So lovely, nice, easy 11 rounds of knitting every stitch of every round. So no more twisted rib, just nice straightforward knit every stitch of every round for the next 11 rounds and meet me back here. So as you can see now, I've finished my 11 rounds of stocking stitch. So here I've got my twisted rib followed by my 11 rounds of stocking stitch. So now we move on to shaping the crown of our hat. So for the next round, we need to knit the first 6 stitches. So I'm just going to take my marker out. And we'll go ahead and we're going to knit that first stitch, remembering to put our marker back in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one, 6. So I'm just going to adjust my cable a moment, move my stitches along. Okay, so now we need to knit 2 together. So to knit our 2 together, we just pop our right hand needle through the first 2 stitches on the left hand needle. So we go ahead now and knit those first 2 stitches, knit 2 together and off. And we're going to repeat that until the end, which will leave us with 28 stitches. So go ahead now and follow the pattern of knit 6, knit 2 together, and keep repeating that pattern until you get to the end of the round and meet me back here. So moving on to the next round now, a nice easy round for us, just a knit round. So go ahead and knit every stitch of this round and meet me back at the end. Okay, so the next row is a decrease row. So we begin with knit 5. So we go ahead and knit the first 5 stitches. Just pop the marker back in there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by knit 2 together. So go ahead now and knit 2 together. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around for this row. So go ahead and knit the next 5 stitches and then knit 2 together. So continue that pattern of knit 5, knit 2 together, and meet me at the end of the round where we'll have a stitch count of 24 stitches. Okay, so I'm just coming up now to my last knit 2 together for this round. There we go. So now I have a stitch count of 24 stitches. So for the next round, we are going to knit the first 4 stitches. So that's the first one, and just pop the marker back in. So, oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by knit 2 together. So I'm just going to adjust my cable. Go ahead now and knit the next 2 stitches together. Okay, and we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So knit 4, knit 2 together until the end of the row, and that will leave us with a stitch count of 20. So go ahead now, complete this round and meet me back here. Okay, so at the end of that round now, we now have a stitch count of 20. So moving on to the next round now, we're going to knit the first 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, followed by knit 2 together. And that is the pattern for this round. So continue now, knit 3, knit 2 together all the way to the end, which will leave you with a stitch count of 16 stitches, and meet me back here. Okay, so at the end of that round we now have a stitch count of 16. So for the next round we are going to begin with knit 2. So go ahead and knit 2. And then we knit the next 2 stitches together. And that is our pattern repeat for this round. So go ahead, knit 2 together until the end of the round, and that will leave you with a stitch count of 12 stitches, and meet me back here. Okay, so I'm just coming up to my very last knit 2 together for the round now, and now we'll begin the next round. And so for this round, I'm sure you've guessed it by now, but we are going to knit the first stitch, followed by knit 2 together, and that is going to be our repeat for this round. So knit 1, knit 2 together, and I know it's a bit tricky now with the less stitches on the cable, but just take your time and meet me back here when you've completed this round. Okay, so for our next round is knit 2 together 4 times, which will leave us with a stitch count of 4 stitches. So I know it's getting tricky now at this point, but go ahead and knit 2 stitches together 4 times and meet me back here. And now we're left with our 4 stitches, so we can remove our stitch marker now. And what we need to do now is to cut a long tail, and we're going to feed this tail through the remaining stitches on our needle to fasten off. So go ahead and cut a length of yarn now. So I've cut my yarn now, and I'm just going to thread my darning needle. And you will need a wide-eyed darning needle for this. The widest needle you can find, the better. We're going to thread our yarn through these stitches. So we're just going to take them off the needle now. And then we're going to pull the yarn through those 4 stitches, nice and secure. And then what I like to do is I'm just going to pop the needle through the top of the hat and pull it inside the hat to pull that thread down and through, and that secures that nicely. And then we can just turn the hat inside out for a moment and just finish this off. So nice and securely, just go through a few stitches at a time just to secure. So I'm just going to go back through the loop here just to create a little knot, just so I can make sure it's nice and secure, and then just weave it in a few times just to hide that end in. This end will felt in over time anyway, because it's 25% wool, so you'll find as you're wearing it, oops, look at the camera, it will just felt in. So I'm just going to do one more time through there, and then we can just cut this off now. Okay, I'm just going to turn it back the other way. You can see we have our hat, we have our tail end here that we just need to sew in. So this is our cast on tail, so I'm just going to go ahead now and just weave that in as well whilst I've got my tapestry needle here. So again, I just like to go under a few times just to make it nice and secure. There we go. Okay, And then we can just go ahead now and cut this tail off. And there we have our lovely hat. So all that's left for us to do now is to attach our pom-pom. What I like about this hat as well is you can adjust the length, so you can leave the rib as it is, or you can go ahead and fold it over like so for a smaller beanie type hat. So all that's left for you to decide now is whether you're going to keep it as a beanie or whether you're going to turn it into a bobble hat. So I shall leave that decision with you, and I really hope you found today's tutorial helpful and you've enjoyed making your noggin. Thank you so much for joining me for today's tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.